Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. I'm Josh, and this is our map and image creation. So thanks for everyone to having joined me this afternoon. This is where we go over all of our art-related news, as well as demonstrations of our built-in image creation system inside of Fancy Grounds, and that includes line of sight, lighting, all of those kinds of things. And we kind of go through all of that and build some maps, and so that you guys can get a better understanding on how to use some of the software and create some really interesting and cool areas to explore for your players, which is always a great time, in my opinion, anyway. So let's get started. We have created some stuff last time. We're going to finish that up this week, so that should be pretty fun. But I also want to, before we dive into that, I'm going to go into the new Chase's map pack that just came out this last month. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a demonstration. I've had a couple of questions about it, so I'm just going to show you guys some of the use case scenarios, and we'll build a quick little map with it. They're pretty self-explanatory, but one of the things that I found to be particularly interesting is doing like car chases and things like that. So why don't we jump in and do a little creation of some of that stuff. And what we're going to do here, and here we are in the Chase's map pack right now. And now we're going to go into our images. Let's see here. Yeah. So let's, we'll delete that. We'll create a new image. And we can close this down now. And then we're going to pull this out. Give us a little bit more of our workspace over here. We'll move this over. First thing I always do is I go into the grid system, and what I like to do is maintain a 100 by 100 grid. And the reason why I do that is just for simplicity with the creation of the assets. The way that the Fantasy Grounds works is that the grid system and the images themselves kind of work in tandem with each other. So a lot of the way that Fantasy Grounds works is based off of the grid system. And so this just helps me with the math a little bit easier. And I'm just going to lower down the opacity there of that a little bit. So we have, we can see our grid, but it doesn't, kind of overpower what we're trying to kind of create here. And what we can do here is I'm going to go into one of these road ones, right? And we have a few different ones here. We have one, this is kind of like a city at nighttime. And what we can do here is we can go into our painting tab here, and these are going to be set up as like brushes, right? And they don't have to be. You could just drag and drop them out here, and that's going to work just fine for us, right? So don't think that you always have to do it the way that I present it. The way that the systems are set up is that there is always going to be lots of different ways that you can kind of approach these kind of scenarios. And what you can see here, and one of the reasons why I like to use the painted method rather than just drag and drop here, is of course we can kind of use this as is. But there's a little bit more flexibility with the painting. And so to demonstrate that, I'm just going to drag this over into the stroke here, right? And again, all I have to do is just drag out, and I'm going to hold down Shift so that we maintain straight up and down here. And boom. And see what I can do here is I can change the dynamic here a little bit. So let me just go over, and I'm going to grab this, and we can delete it, right? Because we can see here, this has to maintain its size. If we go into the layers tab, what we can actually do is squash this down and change its dimensions. And now that's something we can't do in the painting area over here, but we do have a little bit more control over the size of the image, right? So we can kind of do that this way. When we paint something out, we have to do that ahead of time. So that's something that's that should be always noted here. I'm just going to delete this for right now, and now we have this little like painted area over here. So what we can do inside of the painting tab, though, is we can do things like click this and we can reverse the direction here, right? So we can just quickly flip it around and change things and interact with the system pretty easily as well. Now, you could still do that with just dragging and dropping it out here. You can flip images and you can flip them not only vertically, but also horizontally. Rotate it around and all of those things, but you can do that with the painted image as well. Once we've painted out an image, we can also use this as its own particular layers tab, as you can see here. Now this does get a similar kind of effect to it as we can kind of move this around. So again, multiple different ways that you can interact with these images. So there's no clear-cut kind of way here. But what I was going to kind of show off today is how to make these scenes a little bit, fun and interactive. Let's see, you were playing around with it today and could not figure out how to get the two sides not to be a mirror. I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but are you saying like because they kind of sync up? There's lots of different ways around it. I can kind of show off some of the ways that we can kind of get around that if you're using the same thing on either side. Or is that kind of what you're talking about? Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can kind of go through that as well. How you can kind of set that up. Now, one thing that should be noted is that when you open up the image window here, when you open up this in your for the first time, it's going to start up all of the it's going to start all of the different elements into motion, and so if they are of the same thing, it will always look synced up, but you can change that by offsetting them a little bit, and we can kind of show that. So let's go into our decorations here, and here we have some like vehicles, and just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to drag and drop these out here. So maybe we do something like this, right? This might be a little bit too large for us, so let's just make this maybe something like this, right? As we're going to be doing this kind of motion. What you can see here is because this is a static image now, we have this feeling that the car is moving along without us having to worry about keeping up with the vehicle itself, right? So maybe we're going to do we'll do like a police car that's chasing them. And again, well, this is a pretty good size comparison. I think this should work out pretty well. So one of the cool things in the way that it's set up this way, with the moving background and our foreground that is, or our main elements here that are stationary, we can now implement a lot of lighting effects and do some cool stuff in this scene the way that it's set up. And what we can do is we can tie our lighting effects to these individual pieces here, right? So what we could actually do, for example, is if we go into, let's turn on our lights first, right? And I'm going to keep this off for a moment until I place the lights here. Now, we can't do anything with the background. We can't have any sort of scrolling lights, but what we can do is use ambient light to maintain some sort of lighting in the background. And in addition to that, so why don't we just do that? We'll turn this on for right now. We can go into our lighting system. We can go into our ambient light. And you can see here, this is immediately set up with this darker kind of color here. So if we increase this, and we can turn this on as well, right? So we can kind of see it. So if we increase these, we can see now that we have some ambient light here. We can also drag around in here if we want it to be very well lit. We can certainly do that. We can also bring down, and we can make it more gray. The other way that we can kind of do this too is if we bring down the opacity of it, right, the alpha. We can also control the brightness of it. So we're going to keep it something like this right now. because we're going to be adding some other lights to our vehicles here. And now what we can do is we go into our lighting area over here, and let's do the lights for our police lights here, the emergency lights, so that we can kind of add that into the scene as well. We can even do like headlights and set up this in lots of different ways. But you can see that this is going to be tied to this particular layer, right? So if we turn this off, it's going to take that light away, right? So we have more control over it by maintaining it in the particular layer that it's going to be attached to. And you can see that by we have this little light bulb right here attached to the layer. So that's how we know which light is attached to which layer. And I'm going to just put 2 in here for right now, because what we can actually do is when we come over into here, we can select them both. And then we can add certain elements to them that are going to be the same, right? So first of all, it's probably a little bit too large. So let's do something like that. And then let's bring the dim down to something like this. So it's more very centered around the element here. We can change the fall off and whatnot, but we can also do some behaviors here, right? So we can do something like flashing. So what we can do with our flashing is have these kind of blinking lights, right? And what we want to actually do is have them offset so that they're probably not going on at the same time. And we're also going to want to change the color here. I think that these ones are red. So let's do like a nice red color. Now all of our lighting is additive. So this is going to add to any other lights that are kind of in the area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select one of these lights, and let's change the, let's bring it down to something like, let's do it like 72. And then on the other one, maybe we'll do something like 90. And so we're just going to get like a little bit more of a pattern here. We can kind of have some more interactions, and you can see here, again, let's lower down the opacity of the grid here a bit. And you can see we can start to develop some really cool kind of effects. And it feels as though these vehicles are moving, right? It feels as though we are kind of looking at the scene here in as we're following along with the vehicles. And this is kind of how this particular map app is set up to be used, right? So we can have static elements with a moving background to give us that sense of motion, right? And that kind of sense of moving through an environment. And so, and this can be done with any of the elements here. So, and there's a whole bunch of different vehicles in a different kind of, there's even like some more like space agey kind of ones, and so on, taxi cabs and whatnot. Tractors, first tractor and trailers, a lot of different types of vehicles, so that you guys can kind of have some fun and create some interesting kind of elements. I always thought that, chase seemed a little bit too static, and so this really brings a little bit more fun and flair to that kind of element there. So let's turn this stuff off, and I will show you now. Let's delete these. We'll go back into our brushes here, and we'll grab one of these kind of elements here, which will be used for like the side of a river or something along those lines, right? Or even like a road. So if we were to, well, let's layer that down first. I'm gonna go back here. Let's go into our images here, and we want to do a coastal map pack, and I'm going to grab this water. Let's turn that stroke off. I'm going to make this a fill. We'll go into the rectangle here, and we're just going to drag out maybe something like this. Now, this is not in motion here, right? But we can add some stuff to this. We have all kinds of different animated elements that that we can kind of put together here, and even make some of these static things a little bit better for interacting with this system here. So again, let's go into our images. We'll go down to our chases now. And then we can go into some of these sideline kind of brushes here. And if there's anything that you think that would be good to be added to this, just let me know and I can see about trying to put that together as well. So we're going to go back to our line tool now, and we're going to turn our fill off and go back into our stroke. I'm just going to grab and drop this down here, right? So now we have this kind of movement along the side here. And this is going to be the same kind of thing that we have going on here. Now, what you want to do in order for it to not sync up is you want them to have different lengths on either side, but then you can kind of crop that out with like line of sight or any number of different ways to kind of do that here. And what we can actually do, and there's also some abilities here. So if we go, let's go into our stamp. I'm going to stamp this out, and I'm just going to show you this really quickly here. So let's stamp something like here, and then we can stamp something like this, right? And so we get the same kind of motion, but they are not mirrored. But when we zoom in, if this is our map here, no one will ever know that these things are, there's nothing that it's cut out from either other side there, right? So there's different ones in different speeds to allow for different activities. And so you can see kind of this in its entirety here. Now, in addition to that, if we go to, and all of your animated images have the animated tag to them. So if we go back to home here, right, I'm just going to go into images. And if I type in animated, all of the animated ones are going to come up here. So we have all kinds of fire ones. We have all kinds of stuff that's been kind of created here. Now, what I'm going to do is there is some water animated stuff. Yeah, these waves. And so again, I can just grab this and kind of put this right in here. And I'm going to flip it this way so that they're kind of going in the other direction. No, actually, we want it to kind of go this way, don't we? And we can shrink it down a little bit. And we can add in some of these waves. And what I would do is I would layer this differently. This is just like a quick demonstration. We can even come in here and we can kind of pull these in to make sure that they're not overlapping onto our lands here at all. And you can see how quickly you can kind of set up the interaction here with this system, right? So then you can just grab people from the combat tracker, and let's say somebody is floating down the river, and boom, we have our whole scene set up. And this kind of feels as though that there is the motion going on. We don't have the mirroring happen, and we can kind of interact with this system. Yeah, falling off a cliff. You could totally do that too, right? Like you could have it, you know, like if you had a long fall or something, you could totally do the same kind of thing. You're absolutely right. Or like a hole, like falling down a hole. So this background could be just like darkness, and then you could have an entire encounter with people falling down like this endless pit. Yeah, Bill and Ted's. That's right. So again, we have a whole bunch of different ones in here. So I'm just going to do this. Let's delete this guy. Let's go back up into. I love the new back and forth and it remembering where you were and all of this stuff. These are all great changes to the asset window. So let's go back into our chases here, and we'll go into our brushes, and we can see here that we have a whole bunch of different ones. And like I said, these are all seamless so that you can just like paint out for as much distance as you want, or kind of create all of these things, but they can also just be easily just grabbed and dragged and dropped out here. And if we go into here, we can kind of see like here is if you were running through like a market or something along these lines, you could totally do that here as well. So if you wanted to duplicate this, for example, so if we duplicate this and then we could move it over, well, let's go into here. And again, we could flip it And instead of wanting it to be mirrored, we could do something along these lines. And then what we're going to show is just this portion of it. And then you're going to get some variety on either side here. We have ones as well for sidewalk chases. And we have a couple of different versions of this. And these move in different speeds. So depending on how fast or what you're trying to kind of achieve in your events. But again, we could have a nice little run through with this, and you can see that this is quite long here. But yeah, it should be pretty fun to create with these dinosaur races. We have one through a little bit more of a cluttered environment here with some obstacles and whatnot. Nighttime roads. Ground environments. So a lot of stuff in here. These actually take some time to make, so they are, but super fun. I think it's gonna work out. Plus now we have all kinds of new. Oh yeah, well you can do it exactly the same thing, right? So this is kind of what I'm saying is. So let's say we're gonna do. Like if we're going to do a train track, right? Let's build one really quickly here. And we can actually use some of these elements. But let's say we have, I think we do have, here we have mine carts. This will work for us. And if we go into here, we'll just grab this and drop this right in here. I'll make it a little bit bigger for our train here. And we're just going to do a little train track here. And so these things, we can still keep a lot of this stuff static and just have some motion along the sides, right? So then for really quickly, we'll go back into our chases here. And we can go into our decorations here. I'm just going to use like the trailer, and we can just stamp a couple of these out here for train cars. So maybe we're going to have a on top of the train or whatnot as things are kind of going along through here. I'll create a new painting layer, and we'll just drop this underneath. And what I'll actually do is on this particular painting area here, I'm just going to get a regular ground. Let's go into the 2019 art pack, and let's go into we'll grab something like this darker ground here, and we'll turn off our stroke. We'll go into our fill, and we'll drag that in here. And I'm just going to drag out like a fill behind all of this stuff. And then right on the same layer, we can go back into our Chases art pack. And we'll use some of these ground ones, right? That's going to give us this feeling of movement along the sides of the train here. And we can just drag and drop these out. I'll just, and then I'll push this down to something like this. We can go into here, and I'll just line this up a little bit and elongate it. And then we can duplicate this and flip it. And then, bam, we have the instant kind of feeling as though whatever is going on, you're kind of moving through it. So not everything has to be kind of put together as the motion, because you're going to get the same sense as the two sides moving past. Yeah. Yeah, you could do like a wagon on a muddy road. You could do, you know, pretty much anything that you want to. And this is also, this one is a bit faster. So if you're wanting to create something that has a little bit more motion to it, and then you can use something along these lines. And these are all seamless as well, right? So you can also, let's just duplicate this, and we can put this right down here at the bottom. You can see that this matches up perfectly. So you can make that as long as you need. You can actually do these in layers like this, so that you can kind of have, I'll select both of these and put this here. And so you can get this like multi-layered tiering effect, which really makes it feel like that there's some distance between some of these elements. So you could even put in like shadows and do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So you can see here that this makes this immediately feel, because it's moving quicker than the things that are underneath it. So it instantly kind of feels as though that we have some height there. So yeah, lots of fun stuff that you can kind of create here. And as I said, like not everything needs to be perfectly in motion. You just need to have enough elements to really give you that sense that you're moving forward, right? You're kind of moving forward with the action. Cool. So that is a basic rundown on use case and how to use these, or how they're intended to be used. You can certainly kind of come up with lots of cool ways to interact with this system, I am sure. I'm already starting to think of some interesting kind of stuff that we can do. You could grab something along these lines and put it in our stroke, make a circle of it. So you could make all kinds of things that are kind of in motion, and use these in lots of different ways here. See, so what we could actually do is use a little bit of the faster one here. Yeah, you can have some really cool, fun times creating some interesting new things. Great. Okay, so let's get back to our creation of the map that we had started last time I was here. So we can pull this up, and this was this kind of post-apocalyptic environment. We were going to have this this element that kind of moved across here, and we've separated this out so that this is all one unit here, and this can move across on its own, so that we can have some fun interactions with the map system itself. We started building up this area over here, and I think what we'll do well, first is we're going to work on our lower area down here, and I want to make sure that this feels a little bit more like a cliff. So we're going to interact with these, and this is all set up. So you can see here, here's all of our ground, and then this is what we kind of quickly threw in there at the bottom here. But we're going to redo that and do something really fun there. So I'm just going to delete this, I'm going to go into our painting tab. Now we do have some cliffs and whatnot, so I believe it is in the abyss here, and we have some like roads and whatnot. These are some more static kind of stuff, but I believe if we go into our decorations, some of these cliffs are also set up, can be used as brushes as well. So what we can do is, I'm going to use this, but I'm going to do it underneath my ground because I don't really want it to like overlap on it, but I do want to have a little bit of that sense. We might even want to do a couple of layers of this. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to pull this out, as you can see here. We'll create a new painting layer, and I'm just going to drop it down in underneath my ground here. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to start here, and I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to hold shift so that we can kind of make sure that it's in a line here. And then what I can do is if we go over into here, we can double click this, and that's going to select everything, and we can kind of move it. You can see that this is going in the wrong direction here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click one of these, and I'm going to reverse the element, and then I can double click this and kind of move this out. And you can see what this is going to do is just going to give us a little bit of variety here, right? And we can see what this would look like over the ground. What this would be like here. And we can also match up our colors here a little bit with it. And we can also kind of come in and blend this out a little as well. It might work really well in this kind of scenario here. Because we have all of these I mean, they're not occluders, they're just nodes by which that we can manipulate our ground here a little bit. We might even want to pull some of it out like this as well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And you can see that just gives us a little bit of a sense that there's some variety on that edge. And I might even want to go in here and squash it here a little bit. So what we can actually do is grab the edge here, I believe, or not. I guess we can't do it. Let's see what happens if we turn this off and we change our width here to something like 4. I guess that is not able to be done. So if we were going to do it in that way, we'd have to set it up ahead of time. But that's okay. We're going to be good with this as it is. And what I can do here is I can come into my ground. Maybe what I'll do is grab this guy, which is going to grab this information, right, for the ground itself, because I want to use a couple different layers of it, and I'm going to change the color of it slightly. But on this little area down here, we're going to do a couple of different and I'm going to just bring this out here. I'm going to hold down Control just so it kind of snaps to the grid here a little bit. And we can do this. We can pull this down. We can go into our Edit tab here, and I'm just going to hold down R, G, and B, and we can darken this up a little bit. And you can see that that's going to make that feel as though that it's a little bit further away. And again, what we'll do is we'll come back in here and we're going to do this a couple of different. We'll have this layer, right, and then have it a little step down and whatnot. I'm going to move this in here in a minute, but I just wanted to make sure that this kind of lines up pretty well. We'll have a nice little like lava bit that's down here underneath, and we'll add that all in together here. So what I can actually do is I can go into my eraser if I want to, and I can start to select this out, or I can go to my line tool and I can go to subtract, and I can kind of subtract out a little bit of a change in the way that this is out here, because I don't want it to be like completely static. And I think what I'm also going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a fade here. So what we can actually do is kind of fade that out. Now what we are going to want to do is during this is to expand this up a little bit. So now we have this little area down here. And I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move this back to maybe something like here. I think that that's probably a pretty good spot for it. Now, if I wanted to, I could also do the same thing with this. I could add another layer of this. So why don't we actually do that? I'm going to do it on this same level here. We can go back into here. We're going to go, we're going to put this into our stroke. And we're going to turn off our fill. And I think what I'll do is we'll turn off our aspect lock ratio. And I'm going to change my width here from 5.1. Let's try something like 3. And see, that's going to be a little bit more of an angled element here. Oh yeah, rope. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I have it on. Let's hit Control Z. I don't want to have it on subtract. We want to have it on normal here. And I think we're going to have to darken that up a little bit. So Control Z will undo that. And I'm going to just hold R, G, and B here. And we're going to lower this down so that it's a little bit darker as well. And once we add in all of our shadows and highlights through here, I think we're going to have a nice effect. Yeah, that's pretty good. So now we have a little bit of a step thing here, but what I'm actually going to do is let's go into our layers tab, and I'm going to move this whole thing back a little bit, just using my arrow keys. And you can see here now that's the kind of look that we're kind of going for here. Yeah, Control Z is my friend too. In most applications, I use it a lot. I think we'll go into our ground over here. Let's jump here. I'm just going to move this back a little bit. So we don't have that strange, abrupt edge there. But see this fade that kind of comes out with these elements here? That I think that works really well in helping kind of sell this whole scenario. And from this, to kind of speed up our creation process here, I'm going to go back into my my tab here. And we can just duplicate this layer, right? So we can just duplicate it and we can move it over, and I'm just going to flip it. Looks like it made us lose some of our elements here, but that's okay, because what we can do is we can go into the painting tab, and right here, we're going to reverse this. So it's going the other way. And we can go into our edit tab over here. And again, we can, we need to reverse that. That's what we have to do. So let's go over here. I'm just going to grab one of these and again, reverse it. And you can see, excuse me, I had to sneeze there out of nowhere. But that's going to save us a bunch of work. And we can do the same thing with this element, right? So we can duplicate this and bring it over to the other side and make our adjustments there. And having this, because they're so nice and random, having this kind of the same on both sides, I think it's going to work fine for us. Now I just wanted to get this kind of out there so that we can start to build up the other side, but I think we are going to move, let's just move this in a little bit, something like this. And then what we can do is we'll be able to create one more painting layer that's going to be down here below. Now this doesn't quite line up perfectly, these two background images, so I'm just going to select them both and kind of move them independently. Excuse me, I have to sneeze again. And back. Yeah, to something like here. And then what we can do is just go into our ground layer and we can grab this. And I'm just going to grab these and we can move. That's going to, oh, no, we should be able to, we'll just move this. And now we have a little bit more of a lined up area here, and that's going to work a little bit better for us. So here we'll create a new painting tab, and we're going to drop this down in on the very bottom. And this is going to be what is actually down here. And this is where we're going to build out our lava. And you can have this really be whatever you want it to be, right? We're going to do a more of a dangerous kind of environment here. And so I think that the actual lava stones themselves, if we go into the volcanic art package, and I think we'll use more of traditional kind of elements, because I think that the harshness of the like super black stone is going to be a little bit too jarring for this particular setup, because we're kind of looking at this a little differently. One of the things that you do want to pay attention to is the consistency in your image itself. And so you don't want to have too much of a harshness, a divide in those elements, right? So that's those lava stones are going to work great in a particular scenario, but I don't think it's going to work as well in this one. Excuse me, I had to blow my nose there for a moment. Now you would put the character stamp tokens on the lift that carries them across, but I don't think the CT tokens would move with the layer. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. So what you would want to do is, kind of move them independently of that. But you can also kind of do a lot of creativity in the way that that's kind of set up. One of the reasons why I wanted to keep this in its own layer is so that you could maybe have it like stuck out in the middle and have some, or perhaps there's some sort of event that happens, and so you want that to be able to be set up for that event, right? Which I think it looks pretty good. We have our nice chain here. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of different elements that we kind of put together, but it's pretty cool looking. We have some neat kind of elements here. Great. So let's look at this here real quickly. We have our fills, and we have some animated ones. So, like I said, these ones I think are going to be a little bit too dark. Let's just try it. Let's try it and see how it kind of works here, right? Because this is the one we're going to be putting it on. Let's turn off that stroke. Let's grab something like this. And I'm just going to drag out something along these lines. And you can see, this is what I mean. It's a little bit too dramatic, I think. What we could do is... And I would even rotate it a little bit, I think. We could lower down the opacity of it a little, though. That might work pretty well. Now, I know I said that we were only going to do one more layer down here, but I think that if we lower down the opacity of this, it could work really nicely. And we could do some kind of cool lighting effects from it as well. But I would put another painting layer underneath here and maybe use this ground again and put that underneath. So let's try that. Let's see what that looks like. So let's go into our ground layer, and we're going to go back into here, and I'm just going to pick this up. And we'll, oh, no, we don't want to do it there. We want to do it here. Yeah, you see how that kind of unifies the colors a little bit better into what we kind of have going on here? Yeah, I think that actually works pretty well. And we can actually come into this painting layer over here. We could add in some additional kind of elements to it, right? So if we wanted to do, we could even do like a smoky chasm down there. That would be kind of cool as well. But let's go into our volcanic decorations here. And here we have all kinds of different like fire and whatnot, or like these kind of like embers moving around. We have some nice little plumes of smoke and whatnot. So these kind of just can be like plopped around here. So let's do this. I think we need to close this down really quickly and open that back up. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good there. Like this toxic, um, you know, dangerous chasm by which that everyone's going to need to cross over here. So I think what we'll do is now let's grab this guy right here. We can go into our line and let's see if we can't pick that up. And I think what we'll do is let's line this stuff up a little bit better here. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to be exact, but this will be a little bit, make a little bit more sense here. Great. Now we can start to build some of these other elements, right? We got pretty much everything done on this side. So let's add in some interesting stuff on this side as well, right? And we can kind of go back and forth between some of these elements, as you can see here. And we can always grab some of this stuff. So if we want to pick up, I guess our shadows are kind of over the top of some of this stuff, but yeah, we're mostly got shadows here. So we'll probably just have to find our elements. See if I can pick this up. Oh, this is that thing. So there's that. But we might even want to save some time with this and just duplicate it, right? And then we can come into here. We have those, but I think we can keep the winches on just one side, and we'll just have this kind of like element that kind of comes over here like this. We're going to build this into a little room over here, like a control room, I think. And that should work pretty well there. And then I think we used something like one of these for this stuff. Yeah, let's grab this one. I think that might be the same one. Or maybe it's this one. And we'll go back into here. Move this over. And we want to kind of create something similar to this. It's got to want it to have a little bit of a similar feel here. I'm going to do a rounded corner again. We want to make sure that we have our butt selected. Not exactly sure what just happened there, but let's try that again. I don't know why it's trying to complete that here. Maybe I'll start on this side. That's a weird bug in the background there, isn't it? Let's close this down and reopen it. Usually that fixes any of those little bugs that we run into. We want a round corner. And I'm just going to pull this over manually. And we want to keep this open, right? Because we were thinking before maybe like vehicles and whatnot. So like we did on this side, we kept a nice gap open in case something, we want to have like some sort of transport come through. Yeah, that's pretty good. We have some additional kind of elements on top there. We have a lot of debris around and whatnot. So we'll do something similar over here. I think what we'll do next is we're going to build out this room a little bit. And we'll have like an open kind of doorway. And so we're just going to kind of unhouse this. And then what we'll do is we will put elements inside of the room, like a little control stuff. And we can do some more that industrial kind of stuff in there as well. So I'm going to go on to this painting layer to do my walls because I'm going to want to be able to do some stuff underneath the walls themselves. And I think we'll do it. Let's see what we got here for like metal. Yeah, maybe we'll use something like this. Or maybe something like that. I think we'll use this. I think that'll work well for this over here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller, something like this. And then we can build a little section over here, right? So here, what I'm going to do is something similar. I'm just going to hold down Control so I can snap to the grid. And that seems to make a little bit of a weird visual bug there for a second, but I think that that's going to work pretty good for us. And we can put in some windows over here and whatnot. Maybe even build like a roof to this building, but we can kind of keep it open as well. We can kind of hide that with line of sight if we want to. But this allows us to go back down to our floor layer and start to add in our controls and that sort of thing. Oh, promotional channel. Let's see here. I think what we can do is, yeah, we'll add some stuff in here. Let's do some texture to it first, though. Let's go into our winter art pack. And in our effects over here, I'm going to grab some of these. Let's do something like this one. And I'm going to lower down the opacity of this a little bit. And this just kind of makes it feel a little bit more believable as far as like, you know, the things happen, you kind of build up. Yeah, I think it would have a lot of windows as well. I personally like to do my structure and not worry about like windows. I know that a lot of maps like to have like the window indicators of where they are. I like to do it more with line of sight. And so I tend to just do walls and doors. But you guys are always welcome to kind of, you know, put in whatever you want to. And as a good little tip, if you want to do like windows in an environment like this, you can always put them over the top of your walls so that there's the indicator, but you don't have that same break in the feeling of the entire environment. But that's just like a personal preference. So I think what we'll do too is we can go back up to here. And I think what we'll do is I'm actually going to move this up a little so that it lines up with that there. So you just have a little bit more consistency of that break there. Now from here, I'm going to start to build on top of this and start to put in all of these different kind of elements, right? So let's go to our I think that if we went into we do have some kind of like control panels. Let's go here. Yeah, we have these. This is in the sci-fi interior. So let's go there. We even have some that are like brushes that you can kind of paint out. and some high-tech ones as well. But I think in here, if we go into our decorations, we'll have some things like this that we can kind of use. We can also build our own controls if we wanted to as well. Yeah, you can export them, Spencer. All you have to do is, now it should be noted that no effects layer gets exported, and no, of course, the animation, it's just going to take a snapshot. So if I hit the export button right here, I can save this as like a WebP or a PNG or a JPEG. And that's going to export that for me. And so you can kind of catch things in mid-animation. So you can still use these animated elements and still have a very successful map that you export. But it'll just build a single image for you. Yeah, let's grab some of like this stuff. We'll kind of build some things up on the ground first. Maybe we'll use some of these like crate kind of things here. It's not the same, because what it actually does is it will export it to the size that you have made the map to be. So for example, I can demonstrate this really quickly with this map that we have going on right now. So let's switch over, and I'm just going to go export this. And what this is going to do is it's going to, as we can see here, with our grid system is 100 by 100, right? So we know how far across this is, as far as like our grid goes, right? And we can even use, if you go into here, right, because of our grid system is set up here, and this is 1, so that means every one that we have is going to be 100. So you can just do your element here, right, 57. So now we know that this is 5,700 across. And so that's going to be our resolution, 5,700. And so when we export this, so I can export this right now, you're not going to see the pop-up that I get. And I'm going to just export this as, let's do a WebP file. And this is going to be, and boom, we just saved it. And now when we come back over into here, we can come to our element here. It's taking a moment to export that as a web. I did it as a WebP. Yep, a window pops up off screen. It's a regular file explorer window, and when it pops up, You get to name it, pick the file format that you want to export it as, and then it will go into. You can even pick where it gets saved, and then once it's saved, you can just refresh your assets, and it'll be, if you do it into like your campaign folder or whatever, it'll be immediately available to you. Well, this is taking a minute for that to export. So I'm going to take a short break. We're about halfway through. So I'm going to take a short break and I'm going to freshen up my beverages. And then I'll show you the rest of that situation when we come right back. So just hang out and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. And the export had finished. And here it is inside of the campaign here. And you can see I can just, it is the same size as before, right? Let's go over in here so we can move it. It's exactly the same. And here you can see it is no longer animated. But you can see what it did is it caught it in mid animation. And there it is. All right, now let's go in and start to add in some of these other stuff over here. I think before I even put down the controls over there, I think I'm going to do some pipes. And we can just type in pipe brush and we can go over here. So we'll grab maybe this one again, or maybe something like this will work. Let's do the 3 one. Make sure we have rounded corners here. And what I'm going to do, see, I'm going to go down to my floor and we can kind of pull some stuff out like this. You can see we get this nice kind of interaction with them. And we maybe just want to bring this out a little bit. I think maybe what we'll do is build our own, because this is a little bit too like 70s sci-fi. So let's go into our industrial art packs. I think it's modern industrial is what they are, yeah. And I believe it's the last one, or maybe it's this one that has most of the machine parts, yeah. This one has a lot of like the piping and whatnot. Yeah, so we want to use some of this stuff. And what I can do is I'll use this as maybe like the table, or maybe something like this. I'll switch over to my stamp tool. Oh yeah, we should put some pallets out here as well. I think that's a good idea while we're at it. Here we have some train cars as well. What kind of controls do you think that this would? Oh, taking like a ship and water image. Yeah, you can totally do that. So if you're ever going to try to extract an image from another image, all you have to do is use it as a fill, and then you can get quite precise in what you're showing, and then export that and kind of deal with it that way. Let's go into let's go back up. Go into our decorations here. I think this is more like construction kind of stuff. Power lines, yeah. But we can grab some of this stuff. Let's put this on here. Yeah, we should do it with like a valve or something, don't you think? I'll use this one. And put that like that, and then we can kind of like build some sort of like housing a little bit around it. We want something maybe like that. Now, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe just like some sort of, and then we can add in some different gauges, right? I think that if we go all the way out, these are only ones. Yeah, we can just make something like a lever or something along those lines. Should be pretty easy. We'll go back into some of these this modern industrial stuff, and we can grab maybe something like this. But we'll need something to kind of put kind of, we might be able to use something like this actually. So if we do this, I'm thinking if we do make this a little bit smaller, we can put it like here. I think that there is something, if we go into trying to remember where some of this stuff is a little bit trickier. We can go into abandoned places. There's a lot of different kind of industrial stuff here that's a little bit more worn. And this stuff has, like coated in grime and debris. It's really fun kind of putting all of these images together to start to build something. We can make little buttons on things and whatnot. I think I can use something like this to do like little like rivets or something, or bolts. Yeah, that's pretty good. And we can put, once we put our shadows on there and whatnot, I think that that's going to work pretty well for us. And we can grab this one while we're here too. And we can come out and add this like we did on the other side. Yeah, we could do some of this kind of stuff out scattered around as well. I think we want to do a little something here as well, like a little area where that's going to kind of come into. And we'll just come in here and move this. We'll butt that right up there. Yeah. So when we come to our transport, we can kind of just move it right across here. And you can see it's going to slide right into here. So very cool. That should work out really well. I'm going to go back into here. Let's grab this like we have on the other side. We have a couple of these. Let's do this on our floor. And I think we'll also come in here and we can just go, let's go to a stroke here. Clean this up a little bit. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And now we can start to add in, let's do our shadows and whatnot in here first, and then we'll come out and finish this off and do this outside area. Do something like this. I think we will do a couple of like wrecked cars over here and some debris around them. Just giving a little bit more character, and we got to put in our shadows and our highlights as well for our cliff areas over here. So I think we'll go into, let's see here. I guess we can go right on to here. I'm just going to grab my, well, we don't want to put it in our stroke over there. We want to go into our stamp. And I'm going to just lower this down and make this a lot more transparent. Kind of zoom in here a little bit. And we're just going to add in some shadows. Make it a little bit more. And with this stuff, we don't want to have to be too precise, right? We want it to be a little bit. Shadows can oftentimes randomly happen in ways that it's not as expected as we might think they are. So sometimes if the shadows are too perfectly laid out, you're not going to get you're going to get a little bit more of a staged result. And we can unlock our aspect lock ratio, right? And we can make this a bit oblong. That works really well for me. We can do these kind of things like in through here, back here. I think we'll do some just like underneath some of this wall. And that's looking pretty good there. And now let's do some here. And we can do some from these guys as they're, kind of standing up tall. So they're going to produce this kind of elongated shadow. And that adds just a whole new dimension just by putting a little bit of shadow in there. And let's do some along this wall here. And I'm even going to do some larger kind of random ones. So just like big kind of shadows that kind of just come out. Could be from clouds above. It could be from anything really. And then let's do some along here to make this feel like it's more, has more impact, the shape of it. So we'll do some kind of coming out like this. Yeah, there probably would be some shadow down there. But don't forget too, there's going to be a lot of like light that kind of bounces up from the lava. So you can kind of, just experiment and see what kind of works for you. I think that oftentimes, and you can see that just gives this feeling of a little bit more depth there. You might even want to do a little bit more of a cast shadow from our building up here and even over here. And on this side, we're going to get a little bit more. See, we're going to get these, and then we can do some large kind of shadows that kind of comes out like this. And you can see when we look down at this that this has a lot more feeling of a height now. So what we want to do on this side is kind of the opposite. We want to kind of create, we can do little pockets down here. So let's do, because there will be shadows in some of these little alcoves, because if the light's coming down from this direction, right, if it's coming this way, you're going to get some of that. And then we can do some kind of shadows from underneath as well. See, so you get these little pockets, but I'm not trying to be too precise about this either. So you just want to kind of have fun with it. And then what we can actually do is we can kind of create like a glow that kind of comes up from that layer down there, with either lighting or effect layers, lots of different stuff like that. Yeah, it's starting to look really good now, right? So let's go into our ground layer over here. Let's see if we can't grab, not the shadows, but some of this grass that we have going on the bottom here. There it is. See where we put shadows on this stuff? You can see the shadow there, and that's what it kept grabbing. So you just got to find an open one that you can kind of get to here. And then we can go over onto this layer, and we can start to add in some of this stuff as well. And I can lower down the opacity and change its size a little bit to kind of. And now we're starting to get some continuity between the elements here. Now let's see if we can grab maybe this one. Cool. And now we can come down. I think that this is the, yeah, that's that layer. So all of these plants, which one? Are they on the floor layer too? Yeah, there's some on the floor layer and there's some underneath. So and here we have all of the shadowy kind of contents, but there we can grab that bush. So I think I'm going to do like a couple of junk cars over here and a whole bunch of like garbage and stuff. And again, we'll do the same thing we did over here. We'll bring some of that dirt over. Very cool here. See if we can grab this plant. Perfect. And we'll have to go back in and do our shadows for these elements as well, but I want to put some other stuff kind of in there first. So we can go to our floor layer and let's see if we can grab one of these. Now this is just one of the elements from see if we can find one that doesn't have a shadow over it. I could go in also and move things around to grab it, but I think that we'll just do it. Let's while we're here, we can do some auto stuff over here. So we'll grab this guy. And definitely want to do some broken glass over there. And then we can put some of this like garbagey stuff on top too. And let's grab maybe some of these like tires. Yeah. Now I'm going to go into the winter art pack, and that's how we did the kind of gravel that kind of comes into the area over there. So we can go into the effects, and I'm going to grab one of these ones I think with a little bit of texture, like this. And what we can do is we can grab a color like that, maybe. Lower down the opacity a little bit. We're going to do this on our floor, like this. And I think we can move some of these. So it's a little bit more, you can see you get a little bit of that texture in there. Yeah, pretty cool. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in some some of these shadows over here, and then we'll call this one complete. So again, I'm just going to grab this this little fuzzy ball that we use to do all of our shadows with and move it down like this. And then I'm going to lower down my opacity quite a bit. We'll stamp in some shadows to some of this stuff. And we'll do this like, you know, very loosely. And I think we can call that one complete. What do you guys think? Oh, well, that's so that there should be no real effect. See, if I turn this on, there's no change in the shadows. So if you're using lighting, there could be some effect, but there should be no, as you can see here, there should be no change in the presentation from player view to not. Yeah, so lighting might have an effect on that. So if we were going to do the lighting for this particular scenario, which we got a few minutes left, we can kind of dive down into that. And plus, if you guys have any questions as we're kind of winding down on the stream here today, please let me know. But let's add in some lighting. So what we can actually do is let's go over to here. At outdoor environments, I like to use ambient lights a lot anyway. We can go into our ambient light and we can turn it on. And then from here, what you can see is we can kind of adjust this to find where we want our full ambient light to be. Now, let's say, for example, if you want to, you can create masks for your ambient light. So we don't need to have it on the inside of our building here, but you can certainly do that. We can go through a whole, it's been a while since we kind of did a lot with the lighting system, but you can go and do all kinds of really great stuff with the lighting system as far as like the lights coming in from windows and you really dive into the ambience of the environment and creating some really cool atmospheric effects just in the lighting system alone. But here, if we put this into in full mode here, we're not going to be able to do any sort of adjustments from that. So what I like to do, especially if I'm trying to create like a cool kind of environment like this, I want to do a lot of interesting stuff with the lighting from the lava itself. And so what I'll do is I will lower down, we might even want to make it, you know, this kind of like this bluier kind of element here. And we can always come back and adjust this anyway. And we also have the ability to create shadows based off of our line of sight. So that's on all a built-in kind of system here. So let's hit OK on this. And then we can go into here. I'm going to actually do all my lights on this top layer just so that it's just easier for us to interact here. And then as you can see, if I put a light down here, this is just a white light, and if I put it down here, it instantly kind of creates this feeling that these areas are illuminated, right? Like they're bringing their own light to the area here. And it looks kind of like a night scene. But we can adjust all of those things with additional light sources, right? And these ones, I think, and we can select all of these and make adjustments, and it will adjust all of these lights that I've selected. If I want to make it a little bit more on the orange side, for example, you see that I can certainly do that. And then I can, if I want to, I can grab this hexadecimal code, and any other light that I drop down here, as you can see, I can put that code in and, you know, drop lights wherever I want. But here I'm going to have to do it in this here, like that. You can see how this is affecting. It's going to go in and it's going to affect this. And that's kind of cool, right? Because we can actually use that to that feeling that there are windows, that you're going to get some of that reflected light into the environments themselves. And so you can really use the lighting system, and you can see here we can actually use it to kind of illuminate parts of the cliff itself. And we can block things off with occluders that we don't want to. So if we want to put like walls on here and do all kinds of different stuff, we could even make this an entire area over here like a pit. But you certainly don't have to. I would probably keep it more like this. But what we can do now is if we go into here, let's just make these ones white, for example. Now, let's say I don't want this to, I want to have this feeling of illumination, but I don't want this to be like a nighttime scene. What I can do is I can add in my own light sources. I'm going to make these a bit bigger, right? So let's make the dim area of this maybe something like 16. And then the bright area, I'm going to bring that down to 0. So it's just the dim elements here. And so now we have these nice gradients that we can kind of put into these areas, and we can still get some really cool lighting effects over here, right? So if I come back over here, let's make another one. We can drop this over here, and you can see how much the lighting can affect the environment, right? Like we can have subtle light systems that kind of go around. Let's do 2 over here, and I'm just going to bring this one into something like that, and this one into something like that. And now we have a really neat kind of environment here. And you can see, if we turn the lighting system off, you can see that we've really just only adjusted like this radiance from down there. So you can have a lot of fun adjusting with the lighting system and interacting with it and creating these environments that are a little bit more engaging. Right? Like they kind of tell a little bit more of a story. The other thing that you can do in these kind of scenarios is you can create effects layers and create vibrancy from them as well. So if we create an effects layer, we can go over in here and let's do an adjust colors, and we can create a mask with this, right? And what this is going to do is going to only be in the areas that we wish it to be, right? So what we could do is we could do something, and I'm just going to do this like super quick. And then we can increase our brightness here, maybe like our red, right? And we can blur out those edges. I think we probably want to do it like it's a little bit more like this. We might want to bring that down. And if you hold down Alt, you can just draw out whatever you want for a shape here. And you can bring this all the way up, right? Like, so you can do some pretty crazy adjustments of colors and whatnot. You can even bring it down to black. But yeah, so you guys have a multitude of different ways. Yeah, super fun. Great, guys. Well, if there's no questions, we'll call it here. Completed this one. This was a great one. And then we'll be back this next week and work on some new stuff. Maybe I'll have some more art-related news for you guys. But in the meantime, keep enjoying using Fantasy Grounds. I think that the map-making features inside of Fantasy Grounds are exceptional and definitely makes things so much easier to kind of, like navigate while you're inside your own games. So thanks, everyone. I hope you guys all have a great week, and we'll see you all next time.